Hello everyone, this is Yoko. On this channel, I feel that information about what is happening in China is often not correctly conveyed to countries other than China, so I will be disseminating the information I have gathered in English. I'm getting information from multiple media, so I'd be happy if you could comment on the content of the video. Also, my native language is not English, so I use an AI speaker to create the voice to convey the information correctly. If you like it, please subscribe to the channel and support us. This time, instead of talking about China, I will talk about issues such as social disparity. The first topic is that I think Japan is the only country where economic disparity is not linked to social status. The United States is a country with very large income and asset disparities, but the rich are not necessarily aristocrats. As the phrase American Dream suggests, one's talent can make one rich. But in fact, America and Europe are class societies. In other words, people with money of this level go to that restaurant, and people with more money eat at more prestigious restaurants. In Japan, there are restaurants that accept referrals, but whether you are a business owner, an employee, or a student with no income, you can eat at the same restaurant without feeling out of place. However, in Europe, even if you happen to land some money, very few people go to the kind of restaurants that rich people go to. The reason is that there is a substantial social status, and the awareness that this is not the store we go to has become established, so economic disparities are like social status. People who have money and people who don't have already split on where and what to consume. However, Japan hasn't reached the point where people who don't think they have money are treated differently or have different ways of thinking. So compared to other developed countries, I think Japan is a very equal country. Increase. In a country that does not have a status system, it is believed that the tax system in Japan leads to a sense of equality. In Japan, income tax is a progressive tax, and the higher the income, the more tax is taken, but it is recognized that the tax is redistributed by being used for welfare, etc., so the society as a whole is an equal society. Has become. This is just one way of thinking, so I don't think it's correct, but it is said that countries with higher per capita GDP tend to have lower Gini coefficients of disposable income. This means that the greater the wealth generated by the country as a whole, the more leeway there will be to care for the poor. Specifically, by collecting money from people who have a lot of money and using that money on people in need, taxes have the function of preventing widening disparities within the country. It is true that good intentions have such a function, but if you push forward with that idea, it will be like taking 100% of the tax and then distributing it equally. This is the idea of communism and socialism, but history has proven that such an idea does not hold. Redistributing money isn't bad per se, but it puts a lot more power on the people who decide how to distribute the money once it's been collected. In a bureaucratic society like China, only those who are connected to the Communist Party government make a lot of money, and it is a phenomenon that they do not go to those who are actually in trouble. As a premise for this method to work well, the important point is that there is sufficient wealth in the whole country. It is a story that people can afford to circulate a lot of money and take care of other people because they have room, but if the growth of the whole country slows down due to changes in the tax system, there will be no room and it will not work. So when you take a lot of taxes, it's important to think about whether you can grow the economy. If a country is prosperous, it will have the capacity to care for those who have been left behind in its growth. This surplus is the premise of everything, so if there is a negative impact on the economy as a whole by introducing a new tax or changing the tax rate, it will be a waste of money. Therefore, it would be more beneficial for the economy if the government declared that it would not raise taxes until it was confirmed that the income of the general public had clearly increased until the economy improved. Taxes have various functions, and if you can create a system that improves the current situation, you can also create a system that makes it worse than it is now. I think it's already common knowledge for those who know, but there is a word Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient is a term used to express inequality, but the Gini coefficient is a number that shows how disparities exist when you change the expression of the variation in numbers for various statistical figures. That's right. Therefore, the term Gini coefficient alone does not mean anything. If you don't think about how much disparity there is in each number, You won't know what you're talking about just by saying Gini coefficient. Somehow, the Gini coefficient is understood to be a number that expresses inequality, and the question of what the Gini coefficient is about is often skipped over. People tend to say that the Gini coefficient is high or low, but if you don't pay attention to whether it's assets or income, you won't know the actual situation. There are many countries that are larger than Japan, but compared to the United States is a country with a very large disparity, so it can be said that Japan is more equal than the United States. If you look at the numbers, you can't say that Japan is very equal compared to other countries. For example, when comparing the Gini coefficients of income and assets with those of other countries, the conditions are different between Japan and other countries, so I don't think it makes much sense. For example, in countries and societies where disparities are inherently large, there are certain social structures, behavioral patterns, and cultures. For example, in America, the rich donate a lot. However, it is rare to see rich people in Japan actively donating. There is a culture that says, if you're rich, you should contribute to society in your own way. I don't think there's much point in arguing that Japan is better than Japan by presenting figures for countries with different social conditions, and comparing only the disparity in assets. Another thing is that income inequality is not so large in Japan compared to developed countries where inequality is large. For example, there are quite a few company managers who dare to keep their own income low and reduce their social insurance premiums. Alternatively, we are focusing on reducing taxable income such as dividend income by suppressing salary income. This is a technique aimed at saving taxes, in which insurance premiums become very cheap if executive compensation is kept small. I'm curious about the effect on the Gini coefficient of people who are actually living very well, but their incomes are kept very low on paper. If there are many people in Japan who dare to keep their personal incomes low in order to reduce tax cuts and high-speed effects, the argument that the income disparity among Japanese people is not large does not reflect reality. Maybe. That's all for now. See you next time.